Okay, it's already 2:05. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, everyone.
Salam, sir. Good afternoon.
All right. So, as I've mentioned in our WhatsApp group just now, today will only be a proper briefing in regards to assessment one, which is the article analysis. However, it's not something that you are unfamiliar with because all of you are aware of the components needed and what are the things required for you to do in order to meet the requirements for this particular assessment itself. And of course, I believe most of you, based on our Google Sheets. Yes. Um, the article I have approved it, and also some of you. I decided that it is up to you whether you want to proceed with it or not. To me, it is okay, but it's lacking in terms of certain technical aspects. But if you are able to see the underlying tone, the underlying messages that the author or the content itself, then it is okay as you can proceed with it. Okay. So generally you are aware of. So now I'm going to, well, basically for today's briefing is going to be really technical in terms of the component and how are you going to tackle it, as well as some techniques that I will share on how you can actually complete this assessment successfully, provided of course if you are critical enough. At the end of the day, whatever it is that I'm going to share with you today, if you are not critical, you are not able to dissect the underlying meaning, then it will be a little bit difficult, especially on how you are trying to relate or connect whatever it is that you have analyzed with Hall's theory, either iceberg model or even the high and low context culture, or if you want to integrate both as well, it doesn't matter. All right, then. So now, the task sheet is with you, so you can refer. I believe in our Google Classroom, I have included it. But do let me know if I belum lagi share to you guys the task sheet for this particular assessment. But basically, this is something that you are familiar with. This is an individual assessment. The weightage is going to be 30%, and it is due in week 6, which basically in 2 weeks. So technically, if we count this week and also last week, if we count this week, you have 3 weeks left before the submission, and you need to complete two tasks, which has its own requirements. So I am going to go one by one. If you are unclear with anything, you have questions or whatsoever, feel free to unmute and ask me questions, or you can just type in the chat box. So it is okay if you interrupt me ke apa ya. All right, now. So, moving on to the general aspects of it. So, this is still the general aspects which you are familiar with, which you have searched for the appropriate article or letter to the editor. And regardless whether it is an article or a letter, it must be published between April to November 2024. And two tasks, which task one have 5 components, and you need to evaluate the author's writing and content as well as providing responses. Task two is for you to look at 4 components needed to be seen as you evaluate yourself and the development of your opinion. Also, even though you are relying on your article, you can also cite other reliable sources as well. So there is no limitation in terms of how many do you want to cite, how many you want to refer to. It is entirely up to you. I'm going to give you the freedom when it comes to that. So there is no limitations when it comes to how many articles boleh untuk kita orang refer ke apa semua macam tu. You are going to analyze on one article, but If you want to have supporting articles function as your citation, references, sources, then up to you. It can be up to 5, up to 6, but shouldn't be more than that because most of the components when it comes to this particular assessment will come from you. And if you want to have supporting documents, should be around 5 to 6 is enough. So if you want to have 2 3, it doesn't matter as long as you are able to come up with a wonderful analysis and also evaluation when it comes to this particular assessment. But whatever it is, your citation must be APA 7th edition format. So if you are not sure how it's going to look like, DOI link semua macam tu, you feel free to Google what is APA 7th edition format and follow that exact format Alright, so before I proceed, kalau ada sesiapa share device with your friends, do let me know because we have a few absentees as well. So to those who are sharing or anything, just let me know in our chat box or anything. Alright, next. Okay, so task 1. Task 1, basically the key component over here is that you need to evaluate and give response to the article or even the letter. And 5 components that you need to look at is number 1, analyze the writer's standpoint on the issue. Number 2, the writer's worldview, values, and beliefs. Number 3, the writer's word choice, language, and also tone. Number 4, use Edward Hall's cultural theories, either iceberg, high on low, or if you want to integrate both theories, boleh juga, to explain component number 1 and also 2, which are standpoint, values, and also beliefs. And lastly, you need to write a conclusion that strongly relates to Edward Hall's cultural theories. And the length for task 1 is 750 to 800 words. So, the first bullet point is basically the aspects or the main component on what you have to do, which is you need to evaluate while at the same time giving response. And then when basically giving response to not that you have to highlight whether you agree or disagree or whatsoever, is where you need to make sure that when it comes to the standpoint, whether the author is being biased or not, and so on. So that is where you will give your response. At the end of the day, it's going to be 60% or sorry 70% you evaluating it, and then 30% you providing response. So it will be heavily on you evaluate the article or even the letter. All right, next. Now, for this particular sections, I'm going to tell you how many paragraph you should have when it comes to meeting the requirements for this particular assessment. So, number 1, you need to have an introduction. This is like the basic component because at the end of the day, you are writing an academic essay. So you need to start with an introduction. So the introduction is where you need to start by writing the title, author, and where did you get it from. Okay, sorry, I am missing one more component over here. The title, author, and also date of publication. So some of you ada 24 September 2024, 25 Oktober 2024. So you need to state it there. Buat one line pun cukup. One sentence is enough. Uh, the article entitled publish in berapa semua macam tu. Publish in by New Straits Times ke apa benda semua macam tu. Highlight that highlights tu dah masuk the summarization, the summary of the article or letter regarding the main points that you are evaluating and also responding to, because at the end of the day you need to identify the issue. So you can highlight the issue dekat the introduction paragraph. And that issue will be the core component or the core basis, or basically the reference on most of the remarks that you are going to evaluate on based on the author's punya content. So one sentence which you can cover the first and also second one. If you want to write a separate sentence for the summary, it is okay as well. If you want to have two sentences that covers the summary pun boleh juga, but it should be around 3 or 4 sentences are enough, because at the end of the day you are the word limit that you need to cater to, the number of length. So the first bullet point, start by writing the title, author, date of publication, and also where did you get it from. And the second bullet point, the summarize the article or letter main points you are evaluating and responding to. Can be in one sentence. If you want to separate it pun boleh juga, it doesn't matter. And then include the central argument and also purpose to give readers context. You need to provide a central argument because you have to make sure that the students, that your readers understand what's the article all about. So the introduction paragraph mainly focus on the article. If you want to include the author, the author mention apa semua macam tu pun boleh juga, but it should be the narrative of the author's standpoint, the author values, semua macam tu should be in the body paragraph. The introduction paragraph is solely you focus on the article alone based on the core aspects, which will be the issue or central argument and also the purpose to give readers context. All right. So that will be the introduction. This one is nothing much, quite clear. So now, body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 1 is where you need to break down the argument. You are going to break down the argument by identify the writer's main argument or standpoint on the issue. This is where you are going to mention whether the author or the writer support certain topic, and when he or she is supporting a certain topic, whether it is compelling, logical, or even biased. If it's bias, is it positive, negative bias, or is it neutral? So you need to look at the language where you will be able to see whether the standpoint or the view of the article, the view of the author regarding the issue highlighted in the article, is it logical, bias, or not. And then you can look at the underlying values. You look at the underlying values by explore the writer's worldview, values, and belief as inferred from the text. So that's why I believe most of the comments I've given in our Google Sheets, I ask you that whether you are able to see the underlying aspects, especially to those yang dapat comment with highlight biru. Can you be critical enough with your analysis? Because if korang ambil the article by looking at the face value, sometimes it is direct, sometimes it is not. Similar like how you learn about Hall's iceberg model. Hall's iceberg model sendiri ada observable, non-observable, and also observable, unseen, and also deep parts of the iceberg itself. So for this particular assessment, you need to do the same as well. You need to look at the underlying aspects so that you guys boleh keluarkan. And the underlying aspects can also include what they or what the authors deem as important or unimportant. Whether they prioritize certain things instead of the other one, their perspective on the issue. And also, you can dissect the language choices. Look at the specific words and phrases the writer uses, as well as the overall tone. Determine if the tone is formal, informal, persuasive, emotional, and consider how it impacts their message. So, this is body paragraph 1. So, from body paragraph 1, Megat, task 1 ada 5 komponen that you have to include dalam your analysis. So from body paragraph 1 ni, berapa banyak komponen dah kena masukkan dalam tu? Oh, this question untuk megat ya. Alright, so I'm going to guess that megat is not there. Then, Diba, are you there, Diba?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm here.
So, what are the components covered in body paragraph 1?
Um,
Are the 5 components for task 1? What are the components covered here?
mm, the I'm sorry. The components. Is it? One of it is the author standpoint.
Alright, what else? Can you
Uh,
identify?
uh, you mentioned there was like, five components, right?
Yes.
Okay, so mm, in the first body paragraph,
Yes.
um, okay, the author's standpoint, and
Mm-hmm.
then the author's um, is it their values?
Okay, what else?
I'm sorry, their worldview.
Alright,
No,
okay.
uh,
Okay, thank you very
okay,
much.
sorry.
Okay, kejap. Before I continue any further, but thank you very much for answering. So before I continue, okay, let me just share my entire screen for a while. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen. So when I say components based on this task sheet, basically these are the components. One, two, three, four, five. Five components as I've mentioned. And also this component, saya dah mention. What to ini tadi? So bullet point number 2 up until the second last bullet point. Analyze the writer's standpoint. So, thank you very much. Yes. Standpoint, worldview, values. Those are the components covered here. Sorry, in this particular paragraph. But you can see over here the first bullet point, break down the argument, identify the writer's main argument or standpoint on the issue. So standpoint dah cover dekat situ. Examine underlying values, the worldview, values and belief, and also dissect language choices. Ada tone, choice of words, specific words sepakai kat sini, overall tone, and also the intended message. So in body paragraph 1 is where you cover component number 1 until 3 already. Analyze the writer's standpoint on the issue, analyze the writer's worldview, values, and belief, as well as analyze the writer's word choice, language, and also tone. So in body paragraph 1, I want to see the first, second, and also third components. All right. Clear or not, everyone? Okay. Any questions so far? All right then. So no question at the moment. So now just some techniques in order how you are going to look at. Ini adalah based on setiap satu tu tau. So let's say when you are trying to identify or evaluate the author's standpoint, you can use specific quotes to pinpoint exactly what the writer believes and analyze why this may resonate or conflict with your views. Focus on language that reveals strong opinions or judgment, because at the end of the day, the first component, you are going to identify or evaluate the author's standpoint, and this is an article analysis punya assessment. Nak tak nak, you have to look at the language, whether the language is impose a certain values or not ke apa semua macam tu. That's where you will find out the author's standpoint. So again, focus on the language and identify whether it has strong opinions or judgment, whether it is neutral, biased or not, and so on. Second, identify clues in the writer's language and emphasize its use. Note any moral or ethical undertones. Sebab this moral or ethical undertones ni is where you will be able to dissect the author's worldview, values, and beliefs. You need to look at their moral principle, their ethical understanding regarding the issue highlighted over there. In your article as well, ada artikel ambil pasal Merdeka, the recent Merdeka celebration. Ada artikel ambil pasal the new approved act, dekat mana kalau perempuan kahwin dengan, saya rasa isteri kot. Isteri tu bukan isteri tu warga negara, kahwin dengan warga negara semua macam tu. Ada yang pilih that article and macam-macam topik that you have selected. So you need to look at the moral principle or the ethical undertones of the content of the subject matter for you to identify the core values and beliefs as well as the worldview. And then when you are identifying the language, you need to look at the tone, because at the end of the day, language, you are going to analyze the overall tone as well as the word choice and also language. So you need to look whether the choice of words used influence readers' perception, or it build trust or distances the audience. This is where you critically analyze and look at the language functions and so on, to see whether you are persuaded or not. If you are persuaded, then the tone is automatically, the author's tone is persuasive. If the author's tone is persuasive, why do you say so? Some words that the authors pakai tu make you feel persuaded, ataupun the values. Sebab dalam artikel korang, it is a personal opinion article. So dekat dalam personal opinion article ni, kadang-kadang the authors punya POV or the author's personal experiences might influence you in some way or another. So that's why you need to look at the critical aspects of when you are analyzing the article later. All right. So this is body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 1, you dah cover dah the first, second, and third components. The fourth components pula, which is you relating to the theories. Now, one thing that I want to highlight to all of you, when you are relating the theory, you are relating it to the author's standpoint, values, and belief, which means component number 1 and also 2. Tetapi component number 2 ni pun, you tak include worldview. You include values and beliefs only, plus the author's standpoint. So how are you going to relate it with Hall's theories? Again, you can either relate it dengan iceberg, high and low, ataupun integrate both theories. Up to your critical abilities when you are analyzing it. But when it comes to the fourth component, it has to stand on its own, function as its own body paragraph. So body paragraph 2 is where you are going to make the connection. If you are trying to look at high and low context culture, you need to determine the writer's communication style, whether it fits into Hall's high context. High context kalau dalam writing, implied meaning, indirect communication or whatsoever. Low context, explicit direct communication or whatsoever. Yang saya tulis dekat sini, this is just the general aspects. As you know, high context culture, we have time orientation, space orientation, ways of communication, and banyak lagi. The underlying tone and so on, those are all considered as part of highs and lows context culture. So you need to relate it. You need to explain how this impacts their standpoint and interaction with readers. And then, if you decide to use the iceberg models, use the model to explore the writer's visible and also hidden beliefs or attitudes. The surface might be what's directly stated, while below the surface could involve cultural norms and assumptions that inform the writer's view. So masuk ke below the surface tu, it requires critical thinking, critical understanding regarding the theory, and also critical understanding in regards to the content that you are reading at the moment. Or you might want to integrate both high and low as well as iceberg model in your analysis. So you bring together your analysis by linking Hall's theories with the writer's specific values, beliefs, and also arguments, which you need to discuss how cultural context shapes the author's viewpoint on the issue. So, basically for this one, the technique that I can share with you, regardless whether you want to relate it with high and low or iceberg, you need to consider how the writer's culture and communication style influence their tone. Sebab itulah last week I did mention you need to look at the author's background and identity. If the author is a Malay or Chinese, Indian, or maybe other background, other ethnicity ke apa semua macam tu, you need to understand their standpoint by looking at their background first. Who are these authors? Who are they? And so on. So sebab tu you need to look at the writer's culture and communication style. And from there, it will be easier for you to navigate or to relate Hall's theories by showing a deeper understanding of their background. Or if you want to integrate Hall's theories, try to balance the academic analysis with relatable examples that reflect the writer's perspective. So dekat body paragraph 2, not just body paragraph 2, even body paragraph 1, boleh saja you refer to another article in regards to Hall's, in regards to whatever that you are analyzing it, to make sure that you have external sources to function as your reference. So that's why for this one, you look for relatable examples. And also, when you are providing examples, boleh saja kalau nak quote from the article. So, kalau you nak quote, make sure ada quotation mark. Itu akan jadi your specific examples. So, sama macam saya explain sebelum ni. You have you are able to identify it. And then, you provide further explanation. Cuma, the relation with the theory tu sepecahkan ke paragraf lain. So berbeza sikit macam last week. Last week saya suruh korang campur. Tapi takut paragraph tu jadi tak balance in terms of the coherence and also cohesiveness. So that's why saya separatekan this one. Alright. And lastly is the conclusion. So conclusion is where you summarize the key points, briefly restate the main insights on the writer's standpoint, values, belief, language, and also cultural influences as identified through Edward Hall's theories. Because at the end of the day, your conclusion though, you cannot give a general conclusion. The conclusion should be a theoretical conclusion or theoretical implication conclusion. Theoretical ni maksudnya the theory that you are referring to. So itu theoretical. So you are trying to make a conclusion based on the theory and also based on what you understand from the article itself. And then you reinforce how the cultural theory, either iceberg, high and low, or both, is essential for fully understanding the writer's perspective. And you can also highlight any new insights you gain from applying these theories. So basically, the conclusion is something that you can end with a compelling thought on why understanding cultural theories enhances you as the students or as the readers in interpreting a text. Emphasize on cultural awareness as a tool for deeper comprehension. So overall, when it comes to the general tips, you have a word limit 750 to 800 words. So aim for around 150 words per section if possible. But of course, as I've mentioned in week 3, if I'm not mistaken, or yes, week 3, number of words ni kalau terlebih pun tak apa. I don't mind at all kalau terlebih. Cuma jangan terlebih banyak sangat. So let's say for this one, the requirement is 750 to 800 words. Kalau you guys terlebih sekalipun, should be around 1,200 and so on. Not more, not more than 1,000 if possible sebenarnya. But if kalau terlebih 1,000 sekalipun, 1,200. 1,200 ni pun, one thing that you need to know, let's say if you provide uh, specific examples dari segi quotes, you decided to quote from the article as part of your specific example, ataupun waktu introduction tu saya suruh korang letak name of the author and also date of publication, uh, title, apa lagi satu tadi, key points. Okay, so quotes, name of the author, date of publication and also title. Sorry, ada typo dekat publication tu. Itu tak dikira sebagai number of words. Even when you are citing, uh, ya Allah. Kejap Okay, macam if you use n-text citation ataupun n-text references macam, sorry, n-text citation, so macam Luke 2024 tu pun, itu pun tak dikira sebagai part of your number of words juga for this particular assessment. So there are certain aspects when it comes to the assessment, you do not need to think too much in regards to the number of words. So macam quote semua tu pun boleh dikira tidak dikira juga. And also for this particular assessment, since you have a limited number of words, so you need to make sure that you are able to use appropriate transitional language from phrases like this suggests that, in contrast, according to Hall's theories, to connect the ideas smoothly. The reason why is because you want to reduce you want to make sure that you appropriately utilize the length, the number of words available for you, and make sure that you maintain objectivity, because at the end of the day you are evaluating, and when you are evaluating you are criticizing the article itself in some way or another. So make sure that it is focused, balanced, have a balanced tone, and even if you disagree to a certain extent with the writer's input or standpoint, you need to make sure that you analyze fairly and respectfully. Sebab kalau you disagree macam mana sekalipun, itu akan masuk task 2 nanti. Task 1 is where you have to be objective when it comes to you writing or evaluating it. You need to make sure that you are able to stay composed and not biased when you are doing the critical analysis. All right. Any question, ladies and gentlemen?
Sir, no, sir. Sir,
Ah,
I just wanted to ask regarding the slides. Will you be sharing the slides or?
yeah, of course, I will share the slides. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so don't worry. As usual, I will share the slides after our class ni. So don't worry about that. See, even though saya kata saya nak bagi briefing 45 minutes, tapi macam akan lebih dari 45 minutes. So today's class is very technical because I want to make sure that you understand the requirement of this assessment. So bear with me and stay awake, stay alive at the moment. So again, as usual, if you have any question, nak interrupt ke apa, feel free to do so. So now we are done with task one. So at this point, you should be aware that so kita nak try balik. Megat, are you there or dah ada or tak ada lagi? Okay, so I'm going to assume member tak ada. Hence, uh, Asma, Nazura, are you there?
Mm, yes, sir.
So overall, how many paragraph for task one?
For paragraph,
Four paragraph. Okay, follow up question. What is needed in the introduction?
um, the title, where it is published, summary, I guess, is it?
I guess. Okay. Title, date of publication, and so on. Alright, betul. I think one more component. I'm looking for a keyword. So siapa yang saya nak panggil sekarang ni? Zaida, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what else besides the title, date of publication, summary? What else?
The central argument and the purpose of the article.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, the issue that is also important for you to include in the first paragraph itself. All right, thank you very much. And again, no need to write a really long introduction. 3 to 4 sentences pun cukup saja. Okay, next. Danish, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is needed in paragraph 2? Sorry, body paragraph 1.
Body paragraph one, we need to break down the argument for that the author provided in the article, and after that we examine the underlying value, like the worldview, value and belief, and the last but not least is we have to dissect the language choices so we can judge what's the writers like overall tone, whether it's like is it informal or formal. That's all I can get.
All right, okay. Thank you very much. So, yes, you have covered all the components needed, which you have three components for body paragraph one. You are going to analyze the author's standpoint, worldview, values, belief, as well as language, word choice, and also tone. Again, you should not be including any of the Edward Hall's theories, but again, if you want to use external source as part of your citation ke apa in-text citation, you are allowed to do so in this paragraph. All right, body paragraph 2. mm, Hidayah, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, what is needed in body paragraph 2?
Hall's theories.
What are the theories?
Um, High and low or iceberg theory.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So, body paragraph 2 is where you are going to relate to the theories that you have learned last week. It's either you relate your analysis with Hall's high and low context culture or Hall's iceberg model, or if you are critical enough and you understand both theories, you can integrate both dalam your analysis or making the connection with the previous paragraph semua macam tu. And again, one thing that Hidayah missing tadi, make sure that when you are making the connection with the theory, you are looking only at the author's or the writer's standpoint, values, and also belief. You should not include worldview, and you should not include language, choice of word, and also tone. So remember that. And then conclusion, I will not be asking because it's quite direct for this one. Okay, so moving on to the components for task 2. Now, task 2 is where you need to state your standpoint on the chosen article or letter, where you need to discuss your opinion based from task 1 and also elaborate on the contributing factors that lead to the development of your values and also beliefs. Now, for task 2, you have four components. Number 1, you need to include your standpoint on the issue. Number 2, include your worldview, values, and also beliefs. Number 3 is where you need to include at least four factors that contributed to the development of your values and beliefs. And number 4, provide a closure. It's basically a conclusion. Now, for this one, the length is going to be 400 to 450 words. And task 2 is where you can use personal pronoun I. Task 1, it has to be academic, it has to be formal. But task 2, it is academic. You have to be formal. But because task 2 is where you are required to elaborate the factors that lead to your values and beliefs. So that is why in task 2 is where you can use personal pronoun I. Okay? So now, first paragraph, of course, you are going to have, we no longer call it introduction semua macam tu. You only have 3 paragraph for task 2. So paragraph 1, you need to introduce your standpoint. So, introduce your standpoint by clearly state. So, macam saya kata tadi, task 1 is where you have to be neutral. You need to make sure that your analysis is not biased. You are able to keluarkan, even if you are biased, it's not supposed to be your own opinion punya biasness. Your evaluation, you see that the author is biased to certain topic. But for task 2 is where you clearly can state whether you agree, disagree, or neutral, mixed feelings, or whatever it is when it comes to the author's standpoint. So your standpoint dekat task 2 ni is where you agree with the author's standpoint, you disagree, or you decided to be neutral because you find that there is a combination of both rights and wrongs when it comes to the issue highlighted in the article or the content itself. The introduce your standpoint is also where you are going to set the tone for your personal analysis. And then, of course, you have your standpoint. You need to elaborate it. Elaborate your opinion. Why do you feel this way? What specifically influence your viewpoint? So dekat sini dah masuk di world view punya components. And then, sorry, it's still the elaboration based on standpoint. So you elaborate further based on that. Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? So all those WH questions should be in the following sentence after you have clearly state whether you agree, disagree. And then discuss key values and beliefs. Reflect on how your worldview influences your opinion on the issue. Think about certain logical principles, such as whether when it comes to honesty, fairness, social responsibility, because all of the articles that you have selected, semuanya ada majority pilih quite a controversial punya article that requires, bukan requires, that uh, really is currently being discussed by the netizens and so on. So you have selected controversial topics, controversial issues, and so on. Hence, you need to be able to inform or explain to the readers why do you have such values and beliefs and so on. why you disagree, it must be related to certain values or beliefs that you have as well. So that is paragraph number one. And also the technique over here, basically you can start the sentence with by clearly mention that I believe that is important because kenapa semua itu. And the reason why you have to include that is because it will help readers immediately understand your perspective. And use specific phrases because you already have your viewpoint at this in the first paragraph. So phrases like I feel strongly about this issue, this resonates with me as it aligns with, itu semua to make sure that it is relatable because now you are putting your personal opinion. Sama macam when you read the article, the author imposed their own personal opinion, and to a certain extent readers will be persuaded or you might be not. So, this is your initiative in trying to persuade your readers. You have to impose your value, and in that sense, you have to use strong language functions as well. And then, for instance, if your belief in equality affects your opinion on social issues, you could state something like, my belief in equality shapes my perspective on this matter, making me support policies that promotes inclusiveness. So, yes, personalized task too, because it's where you are going to provide your own opinion. So you can use certain language functions, and again, you can use personal pronoun I tu dekat dalam um, this task itself, especially for body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 2 is where you need to include the 4 key factors. So similarly as well, paragraph 1 is where you are going to have the first two components, the standpoint, worldview, values, and beliefs. Paragraph 2 is where you are going to include factors. Factors that shape your worldview, values and beliefs. So dekat dalam slides ni pun saya dah bagi dah 4 factors. So let's say for example, if the factors that shape the components just now, it may be because of your family influence. Perhaps your family instilled certain values such as respect or compassion that impact your perspective. So you can include in your in this paragraph, growing up, my parents emphasized the importance of treating everyone with respect, da da da, semua macam tu. Or maybe sorry, after the first factor, of course, ini adalah contoh. You can expand it a little further, not just one sentence, ladies and gentlemen. So please be aware of that. This is just an example. So you can expand it. So the second factor, maybe because of your cultural background, your culture might have influenced certain beliefs or ways of seeing the world. Next, maybe educational experiences. Education can expose you to new ideas and perspectives that shape your beliefs. And lastly, it may be because of your personal experiences. So, significant personal experiences like you participated in volunteerism activities, altruistic activities, traveling around the world, traveling within Malaysia, or life challenges that can play a major role. So ini adalah contoh 4 factors. There are more than 4 ni. So family influence, cultural background, educational experiences as well as personal experiences adalah some of the 4 components. Besides that, ada ulang juga tetapi saya letak dalam, bukan saya letak, explain dalam konteks berbeza. Kalau family influence, make sure that you describe how family values influence your belief. Factor 2, if it's education, how your educational background shape your perspective. Sebab nak tak nak, education ni pun memang boleh shape kita punya mindset and so on. Sesiapa yang duduk dekat kawasan kampung, luar bandar semua macam tu, your education will be different. You grew up in a different kind of environment compared to those who are brought up in the city dekat bandar ni. Memang berbeza cara your education tu sendiri. Sorry, bukan. Apa that you guys dapat bila belajar semua macam tu. And then factor number 3, personal experiences. Factor number 4, societal or even cultural influences can play a role as well. So yes, ini cuma contoh saja the key factors. It's your own life. You need to reflect and you need to identify what influenced you to have this cultural beliefs, values, as well as worldview. So
Sir,
ada seorang unmute tu. Yes.
uh, so kalau if I were to put like as a religion as other factor, is it should be in the cultural influence as well?
Uh, uh, doesn't necessarily have to relate with culture sebab kadang-kadang religion tu is part of a different identity, unless kalau religion and cultural tu the same thing, then sure. But if you see that the religion aspects tu berdiri sendiri, that shapes your own beliefs and values, then dia boleh separate dengan cultural lah. It's at the end of the day depends macam mana you decided to put it into perspective.
I see. Thank you, sir.
Alright. Okay, saya pun baru nak tanya juga. Any question? Okay, so maybe no question at the moment. Alright, now, lastly will be the. Oh yes, I included some techniques as well. Not really techniques. It's basically something that you can reflect when it comes to you identifying the factors. Uh, you can provide like a brief anecdote to make kalau personal. If it is something that is personal to you, something like childhood memory or family pergi hiking trips that fostered a love for the environment. So itu adalah something that's very minor, but somehow that minor incidents, that minor events in your life shapes your values when it comes to loving the environment and so on. Or maybe when it comes to educational background, if you learn about climate change in school, this knowledge may have formed the basis of your environmental values. Or maybe use vivid details to describe how experience change or strengthen your beliefs, whether it is memorable or impactful, and so on. You can also reflect on several or certain cultural norms or societal messages, and you can provide specific examples. Sebab itulah dekat dalam contoh ni memang seletak ada specific examples. So of course, the first sentence is where family influence plays an important role in shaping my values at the moment. Specifically on one incident or one event where I da semua macam tu. So yes, it's not really like techniques, but it's some way I'm putting this here sort of like an explanation. What can you consider? What can you use? What can you reflect back based on your life? Task 2 ni supposed to be like a bonus. Even if you do not have all of this, you can include personal observation. So itu pun boleh juga. Sebab tu saya kata factors ni is very subjective. There are a lot of factors. It doesn't have to be family influence. It doesn't have to be cultural background. It doesn't have to be educational or even personal experiences. It can be observation on other people's life, uh, social media environment. It is very subjective when it comes to this particular paragraph, because at the end of the day it's factors. Ada banyak factors that can shape you on who you are at the moment, depending on macam mana korang dibesarkan, what are you exposed to, and so on. So this part is very subjective, so just be informed apa yang seletak dalam slides ni are just examples. And then lastly, the conclusion. Provide a closure and reflect on growth. Provide a closure tu you can read it on your own. It's very quite straightforward sama macam task 1 tadi. But reflect on growth tu is basically where you need to mention how you might continue to refine or expand your beliefs as you encounter new information and also experiences. Basically, you can have like a strong statement for your closure by um, putting something like, in understanding these influences, I recognize how my unique perspective shapes my response to issues that matter. Or even you can end with a statement that reflects to your openness to learning, which gives you essay with gives your essay a balanced and forward looking tone. So basically dia macam kalau sekolah dulu lecturer sorry cikgu cakap harapan, closure, what are you looking forward to bila tulis essay tu, hujung tu kita kena reflect balik, what else, what improvement can be added based on your conclusion. So that's why use a strong closing statement and also end with a statement that shows that you are open to learn, you are still learning, or maybe if you feel like whatever you have now is enough, boleh je tulis saja dekat dalam conclusion tu, not a problem. As long as you meet the requirement that you need to provide a closure. But when you provide a closure, make sure that it relates to the content, whatever it is that you have explained here in this particular paragraph. So, general tips for task 2. So, task 2 again, ada word limit 400 to 450. Kalau terlebih pun maybe around 600 to 650. So, make sure that you keep each section or each paragraph focused and avoid unnecessary details. And then, similar like previous tips, use transitional words and reflect honestly. Somehow, when I read through your seniors punya kerja, when it comes to the reflection tu, uh, other parts where I can see whether you are genuine or not when it comes to writing task 2. Because at the end of the day, task 2 is where you reflect, you are writing your own opinion article based on your own values, belief, worldview, and standpoint, as well as based on the issue or the author's standpoint. So be honest and provide your own input. Instill it, make sure that it has a genuine reflections. And also the marks distribution. So this part you guys boleh nampak dekat dalam task sheet tu. So it should be obvious in this one. I have also explained as well last week on certain aspects how you are going to be able to look at it. So critical appraisal of article. So kalau task 1 tu, I believe Megat ada tanya last week komponen-komponen ni macam mana. So sebab itulah I created this format of mine. So just be aware ya, kelas lain mungkin they have different format. But for my class, you follow the number of paragraph yang saya dah mention tadi and komponen macam mana senak tu ikut saja based on the slides. So introduction 5 marks. So sebab itulah dekat dalam introduction paragraph I included that you need to have the the name of the article, author, date of publication, where you got it from, and also the central argument or the issue itself. The critical appraisal of article falls under body paragraph 1. Application of cultural theory falls under paragraph 2. The concluding paragraph, coherence and cohesion, itu depends on the overall organization, and also language use. Basically, proofread, make sure that minimal grammatical errors and minimal sentence structure errors. Task 2, introduction. I do not specifically mention introduction dekat dalam my explanation just now when it comes to task 2 ni. But automatically, for this part, seletak 3 perenggan sahaja and combine the introduction with the overall output of the first 2 components. Basically, your own worldview, standpoint, beliefs, and values. So, segabungkan 2 benda tu. Introduction, I will be looking at how you are going to, introduction, how are you going to introduce your standpoint and also your elaboration based on your standpoint. So the first 2 parts ni, 3 sentences will be enough. Lepas tu discuss on your values, beliefs and also worldview. So that is how I am going to look at for this part, the introduction and also the personal opinions and cultural perspectives. And also the factors influencing values and beliefs. So itu the four factors tu lah. I will be looking at the factors as well as your explanation and also the specific examples if you have. Conclusion, coherence language. Total akan ada 60 I believe. Lepas tu 60 markah akan ada bahagi, darab, tolak. It will be 30% overall. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions? Are you still with me ataupun dah KO dah dengar benda ni? Okay, if no question, bagi reaction, so at least I'm aware that at the moment you guys are surviving and aware of what to do and so on. Alright then. So now, just a reminder, benda ni saya tak include dalam slide, so I'm going to tell you guys. As I've mentioned in week 3, kalau nak pakai AI sekalipun, make sure that you humanize it. Sebabkan kita ada student baru joinkan kelas ni. So, kalau nak pakai AI, the artificial intelligence are there as a tool to assist you, not to do your work. So make sure that you humanize it, you include your own personal perspective and so on. And again, kalau berapa persen sekata hari tu kalau dapat detect AI detection? Siapa ingat lagi? So mention how many percent? 15%. Both 15% for AI detection as well as overall similarity index. I will not be sharing you how many percentage you got when you submit your work. So boleh check sendiri dulu. Kalau pakai turn it in, make sure you guys tak tick masukkan the data dekat dalam repository. Sebab kalau tak nanti data tu akan kekal dekat dalam your inbox ataupun your database for a few years sampailah benda tu akan remove. So bila saya masukkan and check it my own, nanti boleh detect yang korang dah masukkan tu juga. So if you decided to check it on your own first, untick the repository or the index tu lah. Okay. So I believe tadi Rizwan ada raise your hand, ada nak tanya soalan ke?
Mana tak ada, sir.
Okay. How about the rest? Any questions or clear? Okay, kejap.
Clear,
Nak cuba.
sir.
Okay, kejap. Nak cuba test lagi. Megat, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright. Okay. So, walaupun saya kata dekat dalam WhatsApp group, it was supposed to be 45 minutes but ended up 1 hour. Now, later on, when I leave you, make sure that you buat kerja ni. If you wish to show me anything, you are allowed to do so. Nanti saya akan bagi tahu, I will give you an instruction because at the end of the day, I want to see whether you are able to analyze it, sort of like an informal outline, and I want you to show me next week. So this Thursday tak ada kelas. It's a public holiday. So hooray for you. Kalau tak, saya akan minta tengok Khamis ni. So in that sense, hopefully by next Monday, each one of you datang kelas boleh tunjuk not a complete analysis, but at least you have the overall key components for both tasks. Instructions saya akan share maybe tomorrow or maybe Rabu. But for now, clear ke apa yang saya cakap tadi?
Clear, sir.
Clear.
Alright then. So again, submission in week 6. So make sure that you work on it. Jangan procrastinate, jangan delay. And if you do not have any question, then that will be all. I'm leaving you. Bukan bermaksud kelas habis. Rajin-rajin kalau gerakkan sekarang ni. I will be around in this Google Meet if you want to ask me anything. But if you don't, you can leave. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
See you
Thank you,
later.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.